And as fears mount that the conflict between Israel and Hamas could descend into World War III, the leader of the free world, Joe Biden, jetted into Israel today on a high-stakes trip. His visit comes just hours after a hospital in Gaza was bombed, killing, reportedly, 500 people, with a row erupting as to who was actually responsible for that blast. Well, the president weighed in, didn't it? He weighed in on that dispute today, but in typical Biden style, his choice of words raised eyebrows. Have a watch and a listen to this.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you.
Oh, sorry, I was just doing my Joe Biden impression. So, Nigel joins me now. Is the doddery president capable of handling this crisis, do you think? Or could it drive us towards World War III?
Just shows you what a great name Donald Trump picked for him when he said Sleepy Joe, doesn't it? Look, to use the phrase "the other team," I mean, what is this? A game of football? Is there some moral equivalence between Hamas and the elected government of Israel? Because that's what it sounded like. It was an extraordinary, inappropriate use of that word. Though it was interesting, wasn't it, that it showed you that American intelligence had sussed out that actually the 10 rockets that were fired at 6:59 p.m. from a cemetery close to the hospital, that it was one of those rockets that crashed into the side of the hospital into that car park. He was doddery. At another point in that press conference, he lost his way completely and just pretended, there isn't time to finish the story. You know what? I don't believe for 1 minute that Putin would have invaded Ukraine if we had a strong president in the USA. I don't believe Hamas would have done what they've done if we had a strong president in the USA. And I think that Biden has made the world, ever since that fateful withdrawal from Afghanistan, leaving behind $85 billion worth of good American military equipment, I think ever since that moment, the world has become a much more dangerous place. Now, I'm not for one moment going to talk about it spiraling into World War III. I think that's irresponsible. But is there a danger that Israel could face a war now on two fronts? Yes, I think that's very real. And if you get to the bottom of this, Biden has spent much of the last 15 years encouraging deals with Iran. The Iran nuclear deal. We free up tens of billions of dollars in exchange for which Iran do not continue with their nuclear program. Well, they have continued with the program, and they've used the money to fund Hamas and Hezbollah. And he is very, very responsible for much of what has gone on.
Yeah, it's interesting, actually. While we're all looking at how Joe Biden's going to be able to handle this going forward, what's the potential for escalation? Maybe the bigger question should be, has Joe Biden helped cause this?
No, I believe he has. And that's why his words of support for Israel, for me, frankly, ring a little bit hollow. The world is a far less safe place with Joe Biden. And, of course, the next big one is going to be when China invades Taiwan, which, on current projections, will be next year.
Yeah, well, this is kind of why I'm saying, is he, in partly anyway, potentially responsible for at least the possibility of World War III, but we don't need to exaggerate, partly because the world doesn't need any more ramping up than it's already got.